Fighting sail, but it's a campaign game. Hey, check this out, guys. In our last Navy video, we put together a little campaign, and all the red and blue squiggles are fleets that were chasing each other around the map. And here, the forces of red finally caught up to a merchantman vessel, a convoy, if you will, and its protectors right over here in the corner of the, about 20 miles north of OK City. Gale force winds to start the day. That's how the warships were able to catch the smaller and lighter fleet. And as a result of that, what we've got here is Red Fleet. We've got a third rate, a fifth, sixth, and a corvette. And then over here, we've got on the forces of blue, we've got a small merchant. The merchant vessel and the other small merchant sank or were badly damaged in the storm. They are protected by 2/4 and a sixth-rate ship. So look at that. We've now got a 4-on-4 vessel that we developed. We've got a scenario, if you will, that came out of organically created fleets and a map situation that provides us with a tabletop fight. Before we take a look at the ships, let's just remember that what's happened is the blue vessels were trying to skate around when red intercepted them. So we know when we drop these ships on the table that the blue navy is coming in from the northeast corner of the map, and the red navy is coming in, and we'll put them down on the southern border, but they're coming in from the east side of the map. And I guess what we want to see is, well, we'll just see what happens. The other thing to bear in mind is that we already know the wind is out of the west, and we know that it's at gale forces. And here are our two fleets. Couple of words of warning here. I'm a total noob at this, or at least I was. These ships are all from tumblingdice.co.uk. I was such a noob when I painted these sails. I thought the bottom sail was like a bunting, so I painted yellow on this side and red over here and yellow over here. The bottom should be white. I'll fix it someday. Maybe when I order enough to complete my collection, because I don't have enough ships in my collection to be able to field whatever I want on both sides of the ledger. Got to make some allowances for what we got in the collection. And to that end, this is really more of like a cutter, like a coastal little, maybe a schooner. And I'm going to use this as my merchantman. Now, it's a very small merchantman to be protected by all these big warships, but it does have the green sails, very easy to represent. He is on the side of the Blue Fleet, commanded by Commodore McMurray. And he is protected, we didn't give the names to the merchantmen, but we did give names to our warships. So we have a sixth rate, this is the BNS Parkin, and then we have two fourth rates. Now the fourth rates are a little different. This one is modeled on the USS Constitution, and we're going to call that the BNS Sapper Joe, and this fourth rate is going to be the BNS Scar. So there's our Blue Fleet. Our Red Fleet, conveniently enough, has the red trim on it, and it consists of a third rate. This is the RKS Dean. That's the Red King's ship, Dean. We've got a fifth rate, the Roble, and again, this is a fourth rate miniature. This figure, I actually wrote on the bottom. I think it's like a 50, what is it? It's a fourth rate, it's like a 50 gun ship, so it's a little oversized for fifth rate, but it's smaller than my third, so it should be easy. And then we have a little sixth rate, which again, I think is a little small, but we'll allow it. That's the Cyric, and then we have one little corvette. Look at that, isn't he cute? And that corvette is going to be the RKS Wardlaw. Is this a fair fight? I don't know. It kind of looks like it, 4-on-4, a third and a fifth versus 2/4. I think maybe our protectors are a little better, and the way we're going to do this is, remember, gale force winds. If these guys can escape off they're sailing into the wind. If they can escape off call it the southwest corner of the map, then we're going to give them a 2-hex head start over these guys. Alternatively, if they can completely beat up the red ships, then that's fine. And of course, the red ships are trying to basically sink or capture as many of the blue ships as they can. Here we are looking at things from the south. The Red Fleet is in the foreground. Blue Fleet is in the background. Remember, it's gale force winds directly out of the west. That means that our fleets cannot be sailing directly west. We'll talk about what the gale force winds mean in a moment. We will be using fighting sail. I built these two fleets. The Red Fleet is based on the faction list for the British, with one little exception. The British don't have any brigs, so I used the American brig profile for this little corvette. For Force Blue, I used the French list. Now, there is no rules for merchantmen unless you go to the scenario for the convoy escort. The merchantman does have a profile taken from that, and the morale clock is going to be based on the points. So it turns out the Red Fleet is worth 110 points. They have a morale clock of 11. These three ships have a cost of 100 points even. They have a morale of 10. However, based on the rules for the convoy, this little merchantman gives them a bonus of 6 on that score. So 16, 11, that's the difference in the morale clocks. Now we should talk a little bit about what happens when you are fighting in gale force winds. The gale will only occur for the first turn of the game. Maybe. Now that we have condensed our campaign down to the tabletop rules, we're going to try to honor the fighting sail rules as best we can. And under the rules for gale force wind, ships that are reaching, and to refresh your memory, that means when the wind is off the, in this case, because the wind is out of the west, if the wind is off your hindquarters, basically, not directly behind you, but here, instead of getting a movement point on a 4+, you get a movement point on a 3+. If you find yourself sailing directly into the wind, if you are in irons, you take a damage point because you're struggling to stay afloat. The other thing to be aware of is when it comes to shooting, if you are firing, because our gun ports are closed, so let me just read it to you. Gunnery suffers as some of the leeward gun ports are closed to prevent seawater from coming in. Leeward, well, that means, the wind is blowing in this direction. The ship is heeling over like this. You got to close those lower gun ports, which means when you try to fire downwind, your gunnery skills are reduced by half. Your gunnery dice are reduced by half. If you are damaged and firing downwind, that means you're only going to roll 1/4 as many dice, dropping all fractions just to keep it easy. If a target is upwind, you can't fire at short range because the cannons are pointed too high for close-in shooting. So at short range, upwind, no go. Which brings us to our initiative roll. I guess one more thing I should point out before we start. I'm not using any of the special abilities like marksman or any of that stuff. Probably should have done that during the campaign phase of the game. Since I didn't do it, I'm not going to worry about it. With 8 ships on the table, we got a lot of movement to do. Rolling for initiative, obviously the red die is for the red fleet, and the red fleet will gain the initiative. So here's the situation at the end of the movement phase. The merchant vessel that we're trying to get off the board is hiding behind the Parkin. As you can imagine, movement points are kind of hard to come by. You can see this ship over here has leaped out, trying to get up out front. I should also point out, I don't think I mentioned, these 3 ships are all 5th, 6th, and smaller, so they count as a, they're like a flotilla. They can combine their fire. This ship cannot. And then likewise over here, do we have anybody that can do that? The 6th rate can lend its firepower to the merchant vessel. It does have some defensive capabilities. They can combine fire on ships. But what was I saying about the movement? Right, so the gunnery, I'm a little confused because the way the rules are written, it says, let's take, for example, here if our flagship, the Dean, is going to fire. If the ship is downwind, well, downwind means from the main mast. The downwind means these 2 vessels, you're going to fire at half speed. But I don't think that's right. I think it's probably more appropriate to say, listen, if you're firing out of your downwind side, in other words, because the wind is out of the west, in this case, this vessel is firing out of its starboard side. It's heeling over like this. Anytime it fires out of its downwind side, regardless of whether the ship is upwind or downwind along that line, right? Let's pull up a little bit higher so we can check to see if we are firing down the stern. No, we're not. This is the arc to find out whether we're doing a bow rake. We're not, but if we throw our template down like so, and then drop a little straight edge down, you can see that, I guess he's not in the firing arc. The only vessel that has a shot is this guy right here. And what do we want to do? Given that who is this? This is going to be the Cyric, has a gunnery skill of 2, reduced by 1. We can only take a shot with 1 of our cannons at this point. Why don't we go ahead and just fire the Hail Mary at this vessel here. This is the flagship, and we just 1 die. Normally it would be 2, but because we're firing downwind, it's only going to be 1. And with a 6, I think that's a hit. We measure the distance from center mast to center mast. At long range, that 1 hit delivers an anchor token. Not damage. If it was damage, that would affect our morale clock, but at least it's going to make it that much harder for the flagship to get stuck in. We'll slow them down a little bit. That's kind of the goal here, isn't it? Slow down the big boys so we can sink these 2 guys, and we'll call it a day. And that is something interesting about this particular tabletop battle. The Red Fleet may not want to complete the engagement. If they can sink these two, even just the merchant vessel, if they can sink that, mission accomplished, they may head home regardless of where they're at in the fight. The Sirik does have a shot back at the Parkin. Gunnery skill of 1, we're going to allow for at least one shot, a minimum of one. They do have cannons. Well, wait a minute. They're not reduced by half because they're firing upwind, aren't they? And they are not at short range, so they can shoot. And they need a 6 to hit at that range? No, they only need a 5. So one hit on this vessel is, oh, you know what I forgot? He gets to try to resist, as does the Parkin. So the Parkin has a hull of 1, and with a 1 he fails, so the anchor goes over here. The flagship over here, the Sapper Joe, has a hull of 5. And we roll a 6, so it takes no damage whatsoever. I forgot about that. All right, so he's going to be slowed down. He's only going to move on a 6 on the next turn, and it is the next turn. Nobody has any damage to deal with, so we roll for initiative. And things have settled down. We are no longer under gale force wind conditions. If we roll a tie on initiative, I'm going to rule that because we're doing a campaign game and we're in the middle of a gale, if we have a tie, it's automatically going to bump back up to gale force conditions. Now, we're not in gale force conditions on this turn, which means we use the standard template. Anybody that's reaching moves on a 4 up. Anybody who is in irons, well, doesn't take damage. You only move on a 6 up. And who, oh, I forgot. So this time, red gets the initiative once again. At the end of movement, things look a little something like this. The blue fleet has turned. They are going to be in irons next turn, but they really wanted to make sure that they had their angle of fire right. They're going to be able to unleash. Remember, for firing, we're not in gale conditions anymore. Red fleet will fire first, and after having checked all of our angles, what I've determined is that the little Wardlaw here is going to be able to add its gunnery to the Dean. And the Dean does have an angle that it's going to be able to fire over here at the blue ship's Parkin. So that's going to be a total of 9 dice firing at this vessel. I know they're different color, but they're 9 dice. Now, when you do that, when you combine fire, in fact, we can also combine, oh, wait a minute. This vessel can combine with him or him, but not both. Right? These guys are a little flotilla, but the brigs can lend their support to any vessel at all. The 6th rate cannot. So our choice is, do we fire with 2 dice and 8 dice, or do we fire with 9 and 1? And I'm going to go ahead and fire with 9 dice. You really want to maximize that power. So 9 dice firing here, and because you use the greatest distance, we are within, we're just beyond 12 inches, center mast to center mast. We're only going to be hitting on 6s, whereas, I guess that being the case, let's combine these two. So we're going to start off with our 2d6. Now we'll do the 8 first. The 8 hitting on 6s. And we get a total of 1, 2, 3. Not a bad shot. So 3 hits versus the Rober. No, the blue is the Scar. The Scar gets to roll 5 dice to resist. So 3 hits becomes 2 hits, and 2 hits becomes shaken. The vessel gets an anchor token. Then we have 2 more dice that are going to fire at it. And they are going to be hitting on 5s, but with a 1 and a 3, it's a complete miss. Then we have 1 more vessel who is also going to unload, and that vessel gets to roll 5 dice. I get that right? Red, that is the Rober. I'm sorry, it's 4 dice for the Rober. Rober firing 4 dice, hitting on 5s, and he doesn't get any hits either. So that's it for Team Red. Team Blue now gets to open fire, and the Rober is going to return fire on the Scar with a gunnery skill of 4. We're at 12 inches, meaning we will be hitting on 5s. So 4 dice hitting on 5s, nothing but a miss on that score. Now our flagship is going to open fire, and we're going to try to knock out this little guy here. This Corvette is a little too sprinty. We want to eliminate the number of shots that we're facing, and if we can just land any hits. He has a gunnery skill of 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. He is at a range of 12 inches, so he will be hitting on 5s. And we get a total of 1, 2, 3. Oh, we only get 2 hits. But that little guy only has, that's the Wardlaw. We get 2 hits. And with a result of a 5, he does not save any of them. So 2 hits, again, means that you have an anchor token. That is not a damaging hit, so our morale clock doesn't change. We do have one more ship that can fire, and we're going to fire from here to here. And it's a little guy. That is the Parkin now is going to be firing at the Syaric. And the Wardlaw only gets... no, the Parkin, I'm sorry, only has a gunnery skill of 1. He will be hitting on 5s, and he gets a nothing. Some people have asked me, why don't you cut your movements down by half to expand the amount of room that you can play with? Why are you playing at full scale even though you're using 1 to 2,400 chips? And the answer is because I have this template. This template is 2 inches on a side here. So rather than having to worry about whether I'm moving half or not, I suppose I could put a little notch in the center point of each of these and then just say each movement point will let me move 1 space. But I'm comfortable. This gets me stuck in. It resolves the battle in a reasonable amount of time, both for me and for the viewer, so we'll allow it. We're going to roll for initiative next. And remember, if we get a tie, we go back to Gale Force, and that could be a problem. Red gets the initiative one more time. Man, that's a lot of anchors. Team Blue really suffered that time. Being in irons kind of stalled them out. The only ship that rolled a 6 is the one that started off in irons. So he managed to move up. This is the Scar. Managed to move up 4 inches and kind of get between. They're still trying to protect this little guy. He may need to swing wide and come around this way next turn. But for now, where are we at? We got to try to see if our ships can lose these anchor tokens at the end of movement. You make a sailing check. The Sapper Joe gets to roll 6 dice, as does the Scar. So we'll roll for his flagship first. Says, all right, I'm going to be okay next turn. And his big protector, the 4th rated ship, rolls a 6, so he loses his anchor, and then we got to check the small ships. Now, the merchant vessel also makes a sailing check with 6 dice, and we just need a single 6. He does not, so he is still stuck in first gear. Then we have the Parkin, who gets 8 chances and manages to blow them all. So our little nimble ships are really struggling to deal with the wind. We have one more vessel down here. This is the Wardlaw, and he gets 7 chances to roll a 6, and he does. So we'll be able to move around a little more next turn. It is time to do some shooting. And this time, we are going to go ahead and combine all 9 dice, firing at the nearest vessel. Just going to try to do some damage down there. And we are within 12 inches. If you don't believe me, there's a 12-inch ruler. And we are going to be hitting on 5s. 1, 2 hits altogether. The Scar now gets to make a hull check, looking for 6s, and he takes no damage from those 5 shots. Then we have, well, let's check our angles here. Do we have a shot here? I think we do. Oh, we're shooting at the flagship now. Before we were shooting at the Scar. Now we're shooting at the Sapper Joe, and unfortunately the smaller ship only has a gunnery skill of 4 for the Robel. The Robel, firing at the flagship, gunnery skill of 4, manages to tag it 3 times. The Sapper Joe has a hull of 5. Did I get that right? Yep. He rolls 4 dice for his gunnery, 5 for the hull, looking for 6s. 3 hits, remains 3 hits, and that's going to be a problem. Light damage. The ship gets a damage token, and it gets an anchor token. You can only ever have 1 anchor token. But, kablow, that means this vessel now fires at half strength. Not only that, but the morale clock goes down by 1. From 15, it drops down to, from 16, it drops down to 15. Firing is not simultaneous. Oh, we have one more shot here. We're going to go ahead and plink away right there. The Wardlaw has 1 die, and it's going to hit on a 5, and it does, and it hits the Parkin, which has a hull of 1, and the Parkin, the ship gets an anchor token, unless it already has one. Oh, well, I guess that's the best we could hope for there. We probably should have fired at this guy, but what are you going to do? A little bit late for that now, isn't it? Now it's time for Team Blue to fire back. And unfortunately for Team Blue, the flagship, because of this damage token, is only going to be firing at half of its power. Normally, he's got a gunnery skill of 5. He's going to be firing with a gunnery skill of 2 at the Robel. And he gets 1 hit. No exploding dice on this one. The Robel takes the hit and has a hull of 5, looking for 6s. And he gets the 1, so no damage out of the flagship. Then our 5th rate ship with a gunnery skill of 4 is going to try to take out the little guy down here, looking for 5s. We get a pair of hits. The little guy has a hull of... Wait, the Scar... Let me re-roll that. The Scar gets to roll 5 dice. And he gets 2 hits. And he tags the Wardlaw pretty solid. 2 hits, no saves, mean the Wardlaw is shaken. It gets an anchor token. If it already had one, it would take a damage. So that's it for that. And then we have one more shot up here. At full power, that is going to be the Parkin firing 1 gun, and he's going to miss, and that's going to be the end of the turn. Which means we roll initiative. And for once, Team Blue gets the initiative. We'll move them first this time. And again, things did not go well for Team Blue. They tried to race out ahead, hoping that Team Red would get stuck in their broadsides. The opposite has happened. We're going to have some raking shots by Team Red. They were able to take much more advantage of the temporary lull in the storm, and it's going to be ugly. The good news for Team Blue is that they do get to fire first, but before we do that, we should probably check to see if our ships lose their anchor tokens. I've been doing this wrong. You'll have to forgive me. We have a new rules and revised reference sheet that I'm trying to use, which differs a little bit from the rule book, and I'm still kind of struggling to incorporate all those changes. After the sailing phase, after a vessel sails, then you make a discipline check, and in this case, our blue flagship has a discipline of 6. So I'm going to re-roll those. For every 6 that you roll, all right, we didn't roll any 6s. You can remove an anchor token or a damage token. So if I rolled a pair of 6s, both of those would go bye-bye prior to the gunnery phase. Also, you don't cut the gunnery in half until you take 3 damage tokens. With 1 or 2, you still fire at full effect. Not going to do him much good this turn because, as you can see, he does not have anybody in his firing arc anyway. In fact, both of our large vessels, he does have this ship in his firing arc, but we can check center mast to center mast. If it passes through the ship, which it does, this little guy, the Wardlaw, is hiding in the Robel's shadow, if you will. So he can't be targeted. And but if that's the case, then the Robel, is he in the firing arc? So this gets a little hinky, right? This vessel is not, you can't fire at it because he's outside of the firing arc. This vessel is inside the firing arc, but behind this vessel. So figure the math out on that one. Gets a little weird because we're measuring from center mast to center mast, and the miniature is bigger than just its center mast. That's why a vessel can hide in the shadow of another one, even though it's hiding in the shadow of a vessel that's outside of the firing arc of the firing vessel. I think that makes sense. Be that as it may, we do have one shot here to here, and if he is within 6 inches, which he is, we're going to go with rule of maximum carnage. It's really close. And also, this poor little guy, the Parkin here, only gets to fire 1 gun. If we roll a 6, and we don't, so that was a 3, he missed. If we rolled a 6, because he's got the bow rake, we would get to keep rolling, and as long as we kept rolling 4s, or as long as we kept rolling 6s, we would keep adding damage, but we didn't. So we're done shooting. Nobody else has any shots. Again, our merchant vessel could fire here, except that the flagship is in the way. Not the flagship. This 4th-rate ship is in the way. Where does that leave us? Well, our red ships now get to take, and they get to do some serious damage. We'll start with the little guy up here. We've got the Cyric is going to open fire with a gunnery skill of 2 on the Parkin. And at close range, you hit on, well, he's raking, so you hit on 3s. So he gets 1 little hit, and the Cyric has a hull of 1. That 1 little hit is not going to be negated, and it is going to tag him with another anchor token. All right, now for the big boy. Our flagship has a gunnery skill of 8. Oh, baby. Checking the range, if it's within 6 inches, which it is, this will be a short-range shot. We are raking. We are hitting on 3s. We get to roll 8 dice. Not only that, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. And these 5 and 6s have a chance to do additional damage. We'll roll again. And we get a 3 and a 1, so that becomes a total of 6 hits on the, it's not the flagship, but 6 hits against a hull of 5. every 5 or 6 negates. So we negated 2 of those. That does wind up with 4 hits. That is moderate damage. The ship gets 2 additional damage tokens and an anchor. Kablam! And then another pair of kablams. And how do you like them apples? Not only that, but he's going to take another... Is he going to take another shot? Unfortunately for him, the the Scar is within firing range. Oh, before we forget, that reduces the blue morale down to 13. That's 2 more damage tokens. Then the Robel is going to open fire on the Scar as well. The Robel has a gunnery skill of 5. No, the Robel has a gunnery skill of 4. This is only a 5th-rate ship. Gunnery skill of 4. This is not a raking shot, but he will be hitting on 5s. So 2 more hits against a ship with a hull of 5. 2 hits. We only negate 1 of them, and it gets an anchor token unless it already had one. So that doesn't do us much good. And then I think we're done. This little guy can fire over here, and he's going to miss completely. So we're done with the turn, and things are really looking bad for Team Blue. We roll for initiative, and Team Blue does get the initiative here. Team Blue has finished their movement. Notice that the Parkin has collided with the Cyric. The Cyric has an opportunity to avoid this collision. If he doesn't, we're going to boarding actions. Sailing test, 7 dice, looking for a single 6. And there you have it. Without a single 6, these ships now become entangled, and we kind of squish them together like that. They're facing the same direction. And let me move the anchor over there so we know who has that anchor token. Now, since we have a moment here, let's go ahead and check for our discipline checks. The merchant vessel only gets 3 dice, and he doesn't succeed on any of those. Our flagship over here has a discipline of, blue 6, looking for any 6s. And with both of those 6s, he can remove the damage and remove the anchor. And then our other 4th-rate ship also has a discipline of, it's not the flagship. He only gets to roll 4 dice. And without any 6s, he is still going to be very badly damaged. The Wardlaw has a discipline of 4, and he doesn't lose that anchor token yet. He only got to move 1 movement point, 2 inches on that turn. Now it's time for the shooting. The good news is the blue fleet gets to shoot first. The Scar has a gunnery skill of 5, and the only ship that he can target is right here. That ship is close range, and it is a raking shot. So he will be hitting on 3s. He does 2 damage so far. With the 6, he can roll again, and he does 3 damage to this vessel. This vessel has a hull of 1, and he doesn't save any of those. So the 3 hits means light damage. The ship gets an additional damage token. Kablow. And that reduces, for the first time, the Red Fleet's morale goes down to just 10. That's the first blood for Team Blue, and now they're in real trouble because we've got the flagship here has a gunnery skill of 8 and is firing a raking shot here at the Robel. 8 dice, hitting on 3s, and what an embarrassment. Only 2 hits? You gotta be kidding me. Wow, you're gonna have to do better than that, guys. And both of those hits are saved with a 5 and a 6. But it's not over for the Robel, for the Scar. The Scar still has, now, the Robel is gonna fire 2 broadsides. 1 out of its port, 1 out of its starboard. Both of those are going to be raking shots. The Robel only has a gunnery skill of 4, but he will be hitting on 3s. And in this case, he gets a total of 4 hits. And then because he rolled this 6, he can check to see if he gets another one. 5 hits, and we roll again. So 5 hits altogether against a vessel that only has a hull of, 5. 5 hits. Looking for 5s and 6s. We save 3 of them. 2 hits is going to be shaken, and it gets a damage token because it already has an anchor. That 1 damage reduces the morale of Team Blue down to 12. and that could spell real trouble. Now, the other thing that happens is he gets to fire 4 shots at the flagship, and those shots are going to do 2 damage right out of the gate. Because of the 6, we get to re-roll 2. That's 3, and we get to roll that one again. With a 5, we've done 4 points of damage, and 4 points of damage altogether. The flagship has a hull of 5. 4 points of damage becomes 4 points of damage, moderate damage. The ship gets 2 additional damage tokens and an anchor if it doesn't have one already, which it does not. So here we go. That said, there is one other thing that we need to think about. If you fire volleys out of both broadsides, kablow, look at all that smoke around the ship. He cannot fire next turn. He has to spend his next firing action reloading all of his cannons. But that's okay, because those additional 2 points take the morale clock for Team Blue down to just 10 points. And it's going to get even worse here on this next turn. For boarding actions, each vessel rolls a number of dice equal to its boarding stat. In this case, it is going to be 2 versus 2. Each 4 up scores a hit. The blue ship gets 2 hits. The red ship gets 1. If the defender rolls as many hits as the attacker, it repels the attack. That's not the case. If the attacker rolls more hits than the defending ship is taken as a prize. The attacker's fleet gains morale equal to the defending ship's hull stat, which in this case, the Parkin has a hull of 1. So the blue fleet's morale goes up to 11. The attacking ship gets a damage token, and you remove the defending ship from play. So this ship goes bye-bye, and the attacking ship gets a damage token. So there's that. Now, I do not believe that your morale goes down by 1 when you capture a ship like that. Instead, it's only when you take a hit from shooting. Now we're done with a turn. Now we can roll for initiative. And with a 4 and a 3, the red vessels will get the advantage. They'll get to go first. Man, this really turned into a heck of a scrum. We have a collision here now. While they're trying to recover from having... Let me move this damage token over here. While trying to recover from taking their prize, they just barely got a prize crew aboard and managed to get it off the table. Which ship is this? The Cyric now. No, the Parkin collides with the Robel. No, it collides with the Dean. Oh, that's even worse. The Parkin, the good news is the Parkin gets an opportunity to escape. 8 dice, making a sailing check. Any 6s mean that it does get to escape. So it avoids the collision, and there will be no boarding action here. Then we get to make our sailing check to see what happens to him. He is in irons. He's only going to be able to move 2 inches, and he's just going to be able to kind of scoot up to here. We'll call it to safety, but, I mean, he's not long for the world, is he? Okay, now we have to start making some discipline checks to try and clear out some of this damage. And we'll start over here, like I said, with the Parkin there. He's got a discipline of 3. Trying to remove that anchor, and we get to remove the anchor, but the damage token stays. Then our merchant vessel up here has a discipline of 2. Oh, the Parkin only has a discipline of... 3 rather. And with a 6, at least he's able to get rid of... The merchant ship is able to get rid of that anchor. He is still in irons. He managed to scoot up just a couple of inches. Remember, he can't escape to the north. There's a shoreline up there. Then we'll start... what are we going to do here? Let's stick with blue. This poor vessel here has a discipline of... Is that the Sapper Joe? It is not. That's the Scar. He rolls 4 dice, and he manages just 1 success. He's only going to be able to remove the anchor token, and when you fail to get down below 3, that means you are taken out of the game. The Scar has a hull of 5, and the shot clock goes from 11 down to 6. The morale clock for Team Blue is down to 6. Then we need to check over here. The flagship here, the Sapper Joe, has a discipline of 6. Looking for 6s. We get 2 of them so we can get rid of the anchor, and we can get rid of 1 of these damage tokens. Then we have this guy down here who has a discipline of... Who is that? That's the Wardlaw. Discipline of 4. Looking to get rid of the anchor token at least. We would like to have gotten rid of the damage, but it just wasn't meant to be. So now we're done with all of our movement, all of our discipline checks. Now it's time for our gunnery checks. The Scar has to reload. Because he fired 2 broadsides, he can't shoot this turn. Anybody else? Okay. Who had the initiative? It was Team Red. So Team Red gets to fire first. And that means we're going to open fire our flagship over here. The Dean is going to fire all 8 of its guns in this direction. It's not a raking shot. It's beyond 6 inches. He's only going to be hitting on 5s, but he has 8 chances to do it. He gets a total of 3 hits on the merchant vessel. The merchant vessel has a hull of 3. So those 3 hits become 1 hit, which gives him another anchor. Okay. Then we have another shot here. This time it's going to be a gunnery skill of 4 from... Oh, no, the Robel can't fire because it reloaded. We have one little guy plinking over here, and he's going to have a total gunnery skill of... What is that? The Cyric? Yeah, the Ward... Which one got taken? No, the Cyric got taken. That's the Wardlaw. It only has 1 die, but he does hit on a 3. So we do 1 hit here, and then with a hull of 5, we just need a 5 or a 6, and we got it. So no real damage. We're trying, buddy. We're trying. And now it's time for Team Blue. Now, Team Blue does have a shot here and can pound the Scar. No, the Robel. Flagship has a gunnery skill of 5. This is raking. So we get 3 hits, 2 of which can do additional damage, hitting on 3s. So that's 5 hits altogether. And then 1 more, we do 5 hits altogether. 5 hits is heavy damage. The ship gets 3 damage tokens and an anchor. So blam, 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 plus the anchor over here. That reduces their morale down to 7. Team Red is now down to 7 morale. And I think that's it for the shooting. Indeed it is. End of the turn. We don't have any boarding actions. So we move on to initiative. And Team Blue gets the initiative once again. The situation has opened up a little bit, but this poor little ship down here, that's the Wardlaw, has suffered a collision. The Sapper Joe is attempting to grapple with him. Unfortunately, it's hard for a big ship to grapple a little ship. The Wardlaw gets 7 dice. If he can get a single 6, he will escape. And he does. 2, 4, 6. Oh, I rolled an 8. I got to re-roll that. He gets 7 chances to roll a 6. He still gets the 6, and he still gets to make his sailing check. He is sailing just a little bit with the wind, so he gets sailing points on 4s. He gets a total of 3 of them altogether. So let's move him according to the rules. He's going to go, that's 1 sailing point, and then we'll go 2 sailing points, and then we'll go 3 sailing points to there. He is in hot pursuit. If he can get a good chance, there's a good chance we may be able to sink the merchant vessel on this turn. We are now all done with the movement. Team Blue, oh, let's bring the damage up there. We do need to check to see if we remove our discipline checks, and this one is going to be critical. I want to start with the Robel. They have a discipline of 5, and they need to roll at least a pair of 6s. He does not. He doesn't get a single success, which means this ship is sunk. It gains its 4th damage token, and the Robel has a hull of 5, which reduces Team Red's morale down to 2. Then we have to check to see if we have any repairs here, and that is the Sapper Joe. Very well-disciplined ship. If we can get a single 6, which we do not. Then we have the Parkin up here, has a discipline of 3, trying to get rid of that damage token. He does not. We have an anchor token there, and we do get rid of it. He's just been kind of bouncing back and forth. 2 inches per turn. Just 2 little inches creeping along. And then we have one more ship over here. That is the Cyric, who has a discipline of 4. Wow, well-disciplined ship. It is modeled after the British, after all. So he loses his last damage token. And now we are on to the gunnery. Now, let's check to see if we have a raking shot. There's the angle. Drop it like that, and it's pretty close. We're not going to give it to him. He does still have a shot, but he's beyond 6 inches, so he will be hitting on, and that is the Sapper Joe has a gunnery skill of 5. Blue gets to fire first. He is not able to combine. No shot here, no shot here. We do have a shot in the merchantman right there. We'll figure that out here in a second. We only get one hit against a ship with a hull of 7. Oh boy, one hit only gives him an anchor token. We really needed to score 2 successes. Then our merchant vessel finally is close enough to take a shot. This is 6 inches. He's going to be hitting on 4s. The merchant vessel only has a gunnery skill of 1. And he misses. And then, like I said, this last ship does not have an angle. Unfortunately for Team Blue, the Dean has a gunnery skill of 8, and he can fire broadsides here and here. And we're going to start with that. These are both within 6 inches, so we are going to be hitting on 4s, and we get a total of 1, 2, 3 hits with the potential for an extra damage. But we don't. So 3 hits over here, and the... What is this? This is the Parkin, only has a hull of 1. So 3 hits becomes 2 hits, which is shaken. Get an anchor token. If you got one... Oh, he does not have an anchor token. That is not a damaging hit. We fired broadsides out of both sides of the ship, so he's going to have to reload. And now here's the big shot. We are firing, and it's a raking shot in this case, on the merchant vessel, hitting on... Is he within 6 inches? He is. So we're hitting on 3s, and this might end the game right here. We get a total of 6 hits, with 4 of them having the potential to do additional damage. Move those out of the way, and 3 of them do, so that's 9 hits with a chance for 1 more. 9 hits altogether against a vessel with a hull of 3. 9 hits becomes 9 hits, and that sinks the merchant vessel, and that reduces the morale. Oh, the merchant has a... Okay, so first of all, that does 3 hits, 4 hits. Catastrophic damage. This crew strikes their colors. Well, the crew striking its colors. Now, here's where it gets a little funky. That ship, you lose... Do they take the 3 damage? Or the 4 damage, I guess you should say. It doesn't say that he takes any damage. It just says they reduce their colors. It has a hull of 3, which would reduce the blue morale down to 3. So I guess what you want to do is hit it with 3 damage, because you take the 3 morale points. And then when it fails, it sinks, and you get 3 more morale, I guess. Now that all the shooting is done, even though they're still running into the wind, they've put these guys behind them. I think what we can do, you get a free 90-degree turn. Both of these guys, without having to protect the merchant vessel, are now sailing with the wind, and the Red Fleet is badly out of position. Their flagship has to reload. We could take a long-range shot over here with our 5 dice. We're only hitting on... The Sapper Joe is only going to be hitting at that distance. Is he within 12 inches? He is not. He's just outside. We're only hitting on 6s in this case. So we only get 1 hit. And that 1 hit is just going to deliver an anchor. So the red ships are now trying to circle around to get into pursuit, and these anchors are going to be a problem for them. I've made all my discipline checks. We move on to the next, and nothing happened. I didn't roll a single 6 out of all of it, which is a little bizarre. We move on to the next turn, and Team Blue is going to get the initiative once again. So in this race for safety, the Parkin gets to roll 8 dice. And because they have the wind at their back, where's my wind template here? There it is. Oh, I'm all thumbs. They are going to be scoring successes on 4s. He's going to be able to move a total of 6 inches, which puts him right there. Oh, wait a minute. That's wrong. Because he is an anchor, he's in irons, he's only going to get to move 2 inches. On the other hand, the flagship, with a sailing of 6, he will get successes on 4s. He will be able to sail 8 inches, and he says, hey, catch up when you can there, little buddy. Leaving him to his own devices. In the meantime, these guys only get their sailing points on 6s, so it's 4 for the Dean. He gets nothing. No free sailing points. Now, he does get to hit on 4s, and he rolls 7 dice, so he may be able to catch up and maybe take out this guy. And in fact, with 5 sailing points, let's go ahead and work through it, shall we? He can move forward. Oh, no, he only gets 3 sailing points because he does have that anchor token. He's going to go 1, 2, and then a 3. And he brings the anchor token with him. So he's on an intercept course. He's outside of the fire arc. He is in a safe range here. He can't be hit by this guy. We get a couple of shots here. Fully reloaded now. The Dean is going to take his shot with all 8 guns. He is at medium range, and that will be hitting on 5s. He gets 1, 2, 3 hits. At medium range, there's no raking hits. That may be pretty bad. So 3 hits altogether with a hull of... What do we got here? We got a hull of... Oh, it's only a hull of 1. So 3 hits becomes 3 hits, and 3 hits is light damage. The ship gets an additional anchor token, or damage token. Kablam. That reduces the morale of the blue fleet down to 2. And then I think that's the only... No, we could shoot back. What's your gunnery here, Parkin? 1. Nothing doing. And as we establish, he's outside the range already. So that's the end of the turn. We move on to the next turn. Let's find out what happens. The gale picks up again, which is going to be a problem here. These vessels, so we got to roll to see who has the initiative. That's a tie, so it's still a game. Red ships get the initiative. Sapper Joe, the Dean up there, has 4 sailing dice. And if we drop our template down, remember the wind is still out of the west. You know, I think that's wrong. I think I should be checking to see if the wind changes direction. It's just going up and down, though, because we said established the wind for today is out of the west. Sailing, is he sailing in irons? He is, unfortunately. This line is just off of the 90-degree mark in the wrong direction, which means this vessel takes a damage token, gets an anchor, and cannot move. The gale caught him unprotected. That damage token does not affect the morale clock. You only get hit by the morale when it is on the firing turn. Now this old boy is, drop it down so you can see, he's close hauled, so he will still hit on 5s, and he gets to roll 7 dice. He gets a total of 2 movement points, which will allow him to move 4 inches, and he'll move the full 4 to there. And then we have these 2 vessels, which also get an opportunity. Now, the Parkin down here, the Cyric down here, what is that? No, the Parkin down here has 8 sailing dice, but he only hits on 6s, so he only gets to move the 2 inches to there. And then we can check his discipline. Remember, he's got a discipline of 3. Trying to get rid of that anchor token. He gets rid of the anchor, but keeps the damage tokens. And then our flagship down here is going to be hitting on... Oh, you know what? He hits on 3s on the movement. No, he had an anchor token. He only hits on 6s. Our flagship down here has a sailing of 6, and he does hit on 3s, and he's going to be able to get off the table just fine. It's just a question of whether or not he can get off the table. And I guess... Oh, did he roll the pair of 6s, right? I think he did not. I think I forgot about the anchor on him. I think he stops right there, and we can check our firing arcs. He doesn't have a shot, but he does, and he does. So, Red gets to shoot first. Red has a total gunnery of 8. Looking for 5s. 1, 2, 3 hits. Against a vessel with only a hull of 1. 2 hits becomes... shaken. The ship gets an anchor unless it has one, which it does not. But that's not a damage. If we can take this ship, then the boys in red will win this scenario outright. That is the end of the turn. We'll roll, and this time Team Blue gets the initiative. The gale force winds die down. That little microburst does nothing. So the Parkin down here, with his 8 sailing dice, hitting on 4s, is going to be able to move a total of 8 inches. And he will go the 6 inches to here. He gets a free turn like... Actually, he could go 2 inches to here, make that 30-degree turn, and then sail 6 inches down. So let me just drop my camera. You can see how close he is. He is right near the edge of the table. The Oh, he only moves on 6s. Which means we bring him back up to here. He's limping away, trying to make it. He also only gets to move on 6s. And he doesn't get any, so he's not going to move. The flagship up here has a sailing of 4. Also, only moving on 6s. But look at that. So it's going to cost him an extra point. He's going to move the 2 inches. And then you get a free... Oh, it costs... He is turning into the wind, so he can't do that. He's got to, like, turn around like that, okay? There you go, Bright Eyes. We do still have a shot. Well, this guy gets to take a shot over here first, right? And with his mighty powerful gunnery skill of 1, he's going to get no hits. The flagship now takes his 8 shots. And he is going to be hitting on 5s and 6s. And he gets a total of 3 hits against the little guy. The little guy takes 3 hits, negates 1, so that's down to 2. Shaken, the ship gets a damage token, and that reduces, so that's his 3rd. And that reduces the morale down to 1. And then I'm just going to check. Now, at the end of the next turn, if he can't pass a discipline check, he actually needs to roll a pair of 6s. He doesn't get any. That means this ship is going to strike its colors. And the Admiral, who was it? I think that was Commodore McMurray, managed to escape with his flagship. But that's it. Everybody else is gone. It was either sunk or struck their colors. So this little battle did not go in the favor of Team Blue. The red warships, although it was a relatively fair fight. Oh, you can't even see them down here. The red warships did manage to did they manage to capture a vessel as well? Either way, Team Red wins. And now because we're looking at a campaign, we can take a look at the campaign situation. And I'm going to call it here. This is a little frustrating, and the other fleets that ran into troubles, I don't know. I'll have to look at the campaign situation and decide that later. For today, what we found is that we were dealing with Commodore McMurray over here, managed to escape with his 4th rate. The Sapper Joe escaped, and that was it. Everybody else was either sunk or captured. And looking at our campaign map, it should be pretty obvious that with the winds out of the west, Sapper Joe is going to be able to make good time running down here to get back to home. As the as the red fleet hangs out up here, licks their wounds, takes advantage of their prizes, and maybe puts into OK City for repairs. So I would call that a definite victory for Team Red, both on the strategic and the tactical point of view. They had the weather gauge. Team Red managed to cut off Team Blue, get a little bit ahead of them, box them in, and then and this is, I think, how naval games should work. When the smaller, lighter vessels were not able to escape, when battle was forced, they just got their butts handed to them, which is about what you'd expect. One last thing. I did have a little shoal over here. Let me just slide my camera over a bit. It didn't factor into the game at all because Team Blue got stuck up in that corner, but if they'd been able to get down to this area, this was kind of the racing along the shoreline over here to escape. If they'd been able to get around this shoal and off the south side of the map, then it would have been a victory for them, even if they didn't sink any of the ships. But again, when you don't have the weather gauge, you're just up against it. Hey, thanks for playing along, guys, with our 4-episode kind of mini naval campaign. An interesting experience. I've learned a lot from it, and one of the things I learned is that I guess I'm just not much into naval campaigns, or I need to find a better way to do it, because I think it was a little bit too much effort for not enough game, if you know what I mean. Hey, till next time, I'm praying for you.